Good morning and welcome to Dualitea, episode 124. First episode of 2026. I'm just settling in to the space at the moment. It's crazy because although it has felt like it's been a minute since I've done a pod, it also feels like it was just yesterday that I was here, which speaks to just how I feel personally for me, how this year has felt in general. Um, how are we at the end of March? I don't understand what's going on with time in that way. Like it's kind of crazy. We are at the end of March of 2026, and I feel like it's just like I don't know. I don't know about y'all, but it just feels like time has just been doing a thing. It's just been flowing really fast. But at the same token, like, January felt very long. Like, there's different aspects that has felt very long. And, I do the last Wednesday. That's been like the pod schedule is like the last Wednesday. I do the podcast, et cetera, et cetera. And the past 2 months, January and February, it just didn't happen. And it was interesting because both times, it was it's not that I didn't want to do it. It was kind of just like obstructed. I forgot what happened in January, but in February I was actually stuck in South Carolina during the whole blizzard and everything, so it was couldn't be done, but we're here now, and we're here to kind of talk about what's it called, um everything in the aspect of everything and also consolidated thoughts at the same token. Like, I titled this episode like the fuck just happened, or what is it, something like that. I don't know, I titled it last night very late, but oh, what the fuck was that? That's essentially what I titled it, because what the fuck was that, you know what I mean? Like, the past few months I've just been catching myself be like, okay, what the fuck, what just happened, like what's going on, and whether that's like political, whether that's local, whether that's self-induced, um and it's truly been a kickoff where it's like, I won't say it's like negative or it's bad, it's just been a lot at once, you know what I'm saying? And in that, certainly been challenged in the ways of like, okay, so how are we going to regulate our nervous system? Like, when all of these different things are happening and like seemingly heavy, seemingly intense, seemingly like a lot, right? How do we navigate finding footing in untethered situations? And that's a very real practice. I've also been like really coming to understand, what OCD kind of means to me, and in general, like what it means by definition. And, obsessive compulsive disorder has this stigma of looking like, oh, okay, like this person who cleans all the time, or maybe somebody who has like really seemingly irrational to others like fears, and it makes them do kind of like ritualistic things like, touching this, doing that, touching this, doing that. But simultaneously, I believe that a lot of people may struggle with challenges of OCD without even realizing, such as like being stuck in a loop or having this cyclical reaction happen prior to regulating the nervous system. Our nervous system, our psyche is constantly trying to protect ourselves from getting hurt. And sometimes that looks like developing different habits that may or may not be optimal for us in the present moment, but maybe at a moment in time, whether it be when we were younger or another case, like maybe it did benefit us in that moment. Maybe it did save us, So I'm doing my best not to judge it in the way of like how I'm looking at it, but I'm also just, I've been aware of, not only for me, but for some peers around me, how, we just called it like, oh, like don't get stuck in the thought loop. But it's like, not to label it as a deficit, but more so to call it by its name, to know how to work towards it, to know how to work through it, to know what can support it. I'm a firm believer. Like, I don't believe that, we should just like take these labels of these different terms and then just apply it to our life and let it be the ceiling that we can't break because we can't move forward due to the struggles of whatever that may be. And that comes through a bunch of different stuff. That could be anxiety, that could be depression, that could be ADHD, that could be, OCD, that could be many different things, Simultaneously, I'm a firm believer that if you are going to identify something, if you are going to work through something, it's good to find a way to call it by its name. Maybe in the language to you, it might be called something else. Maybe finding it called thought loops might be good enough. But for me, like actually unpacking on a more like psychological aspect, like how the chemical process in the brain, as well as the mental process and the emotional digestion or lack thereof digestion, when it comes to when we get caught up in our own head, when we get caught up in our own way, in our own thought loops, for better or for worse. I bring that up because it's something that has just been very prevalent. And I've been noticing every single person that I'm talking to, especially, I mean, if you're into astrology, we just stepped out of a Mercury retrograde. For the people who are listening that aren't familiar with Mercury retrograde, you can just kind of chalk it up to the small paragraph of it's a time where miscommunications are very common, delays are very common. There's different things that actual like pilots and different people who observe certain things or have certain jobs observe because like communications such as like electronics can have difficulties. There's something about the gravitational pull and the planet kind of moving slower, because it's not exactly moving backwards, it's moving slower. That kind of makes us all have to move slower. Now, I could leave that there. If you were completely unbothered the past month, good for you. That's great. Everybody I've been talked to has had quite an interesting past month, and a lot of things from the past are surfacing. Once again, all of this stuff doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's coming up because maybe right now you have the capability and the accessibility to process some things that maybe at other times you didn't have time to process it. So you take it for what it is in that way. You take it for what it is in the way that it's like, okay, now it's here, whether it be person, situation, whatever it is, externally. Now you're dealing with an internal process, or maybe it's nothing external and you've just been prompted by your own thoughts internally. Like, whether we're talking about the astrological climate or just like what it seems to be theme as far as like the emotional climate of what many people have been experiencing, it's just like low-key Murphy's Law, low-key like one thing like one thing after another, compiling. And when these things happen, it could tend to be a little discouraging. And I think that when we learn how to master, I was just reading this last night, I think it was, when we learn how to master, if we really desire something and we learn how to master providing it to ourselves and not coming from that lack, not coming from that deficit, 9 times out of 10, I've noticed that, we tend to get what it is that we're looking for when we stop looking for it, because it's like we're forcing or we're pushing, if you think like magnets, like when it's both on the same side, you're pushing it. And then when it's the opposite, it kind of comes together. And that I've just seen applied in so many different ways, tying together what I was saying before. When we're stuck in our thought loops, thinking like how bad we want something or how much we don't want something, how much we want to avoid something or how much we want something near, or, simultaneously multiple things at once. Like, it could feel really real. Like, even if that's not the necessary, like, if that's not necessarily the case of what's going on for other people, it could feel extremely real for us in the way of like, this situation is playing out and it's making me feel this way. Our strongest emotion isn't always the emotion that we should act on. Taking these needed pauses, taking these moments where, okay, like I was supposed to be there at this time, or okay, I was supposed to do that, and like X, Y, and Z happened. Even if if it was in your hands or if it was out of your hands, there's a place to have grace and accountability where both things can exist at once. Multiple truths can exist at once. Yeah, you could have been late to something, and yeah, you could have prepared the night before. Simultaneously, if you didn't have accessibility to that because you were busy with other things, you prep, you hold yourself accountable, and the next time you apply that knowledge differently. Because when we just like spiral into those thought loops of shame of like, damn, I'm always late, or oh, I always do this, or I can't believe I did this, like, we're just beating ourselves up. And when we're beating ourselves up, we're getting mentally, emotionally exhausted. And when we're mentally, emotionally exhausted, we're more prone and more susceptible to make those same mistakes. With that being said, how do we apply things differently? How do we find new ways to go about the same things that are showing up that have been troubling us for however long? It could be things that were, applying to us in a way of like, maybe we've seen it every now and then, but now it's coming up a little more. Once again, that's encouragement. That's encouragement. Maybe you have the bandwidth to actually do something about it. When we are able to break apart that overwhelm and start to digest the pieces of it and know that whatever is coming up, no matter how intense, no matter how big or small, ultimately, my belief at least is like, we're pulling it towards us for a reason. It's neutral. It doesn't have to be, like I said, negative or positive in that traditional aspect. It doesn't have to have that extreme duality or polarity. It's just a thing that's coming to you. So what are you going to do with it? Like, what are you going to do with that information moving forward? How can you pause, stop, before you act? And that in itself is already a thing. Like, instead of just impulsively making a decision, jumping on it, like running to the first big emotional response that we're having, and just like taking a moment to pause and really ground, feel our feet, and be like, well, how can I actually go about this in a different way? I'm not saying wait forever. I'm not saying let it rack on for months and then decide. I'm saying maybe don't respond immediately to that text or that message or whatever it is that triggered you. Maybe take a second and understand, okay, why am I triggered? And or if you don't have the capacity for that, just understanding that you are triggered and doing something to regulate yourself. That could look like, listening to music, dancing, taking a walk, working out, like, if you didn't eat anything, maybe getting something to eat, drinking some water, making yourself some tea. There's so many different options and different things. You can even do different tapping motions on your chest there, different hand motions, different feet, stomps, and different things to get yourself to be in your body. Because a lot of times we're just up in our head. We're not even in our body when we have these reactions because self-preservation, period. Like, self-preservation. Our brain is like, whoa, that feels way uncomfortable. I'm not sure if I'm really trying to feel that right now. I don't know if I want to feel that. I don't think I have time. I don't think I have time to feel that right now. Sometimes that's valid. Say you're at work, you get a message. We live in a highly accessible world right now. Do we need to be answering all of our texts while we're at work or while we're doing something, say we're out with our family or whatever the case is? Not necessarily, but we're human, and 95% of the world is addicted to their phone, so it's not like we're not looking at it. Don't beat yourself up for being a person alive right now, navigating the intricacies of what it is to be a person alive right now in 2026. It's more so like, okay, word, I see that. Let me not act on that. How can we do almost the opposite of what we are naturally prone to do. Like, it's like, that's how you glitch the matrix. Like, that's how you change your life, is like when you be, oh, okay, I'm afraid. I don't want to do that. Like, I'm going to do it anyway. You know, it's like, these are the things that make legacy in your life, make legacy in your being, make change. Change is extremely uncomfortable. As a person that, for those that are into numerology, born on the 5th, things like that. 5 is a typical number rotation for those who don't care about that. It seems that the theme of my life is constantly bringing change, whether I want to or not. If I'm a part of a space or a place, or it just happens, things happen to change. Some people have that. I know other people, ironically, that are number 5s, or, day born, not life path, and that they also bring change to things. It's like, there's some things that are undeniable. There's some things that, a skeptic's always going to find a way, and a person who is gullible may not. But you do your research. I'm just here sharing you my life experience, period. So with that being said, as a person who is consistently seeming that my environment within myself and outside of myself is constantly changed, I really, especially at this big age, like, I really do appreciate consistency, and really do appreciate what it is to be grounded, and to know what's up, and like be able to move accordingly. We don't always have the capability to do that. We're not always granted that privilege, and in that, there's different ways to find like what stability, what grounding, what regulating can look like when we gift it to ourselves. Because, whether we realize it or not, a lot of times we have these different coping mechanisms that are regulating, but maybe not self-regulating, or maybe they are self-regulating, but maybe they're not the most healthy way to go about it. Once again, it's not about holding guilt and shame. Two truths can exist at once. You can also do better. There's always space to grow. There's always space to do better. There's plenty of things that I have done, that I still do, that I can look at and be like, oh, I kind of want to regulate myself a little bit differently. Like, I definitely was a person growing up at a certain point that became a little bit more codependent. Like, I would need to call somebody. I would need to always call somebody, I still talk on the phone a lot. Don't get me wrong. But instead of feeling an uncomfortable feeling and immediately grabbing my phone, I'll sit in that uncomfortable feeling, kind of process it a little bit. Once I have a semblance or a grounding or understanding of like what I'm feeling from it as an individual, then I can start to introduce other people that I trust, and speak about it. Not only is it good to have feedback in the way of like, I'm the type of person, like, I might ask you like, hey, should I wear the shirt or should I wear the sweater? Or which one should I wear? And then you're like, oh, I think you should wear that one. And I'm like, okay. And then I wear the other one. And it's not that I'm trying to be contrary. It's just that the moment you said I should wear that one, I realized that I got kind of sad because I actually wanted to wear that one. And I wasn't able to distinguish that until I had some kind of like contrary, until I had some kind of, for lack of better words, like opposition to what I was thinking when I was indecisive. We live in a world where so many people are trying to be so definitive when everything can be extremely tentative, as many of certain people with I find one of the most common things I ever hear anybody who has not just Aquariuses, but Aquarius placements, like whether that be Aquarius rising or moon, always say that this quote, and it's like, everything is temporary, and I used to get offended by that. I had somebody that was close to me in my life that used to say that to me, and in my head, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I know everyone's going to die and things are going to happen, things are going to change, but like, how could you say that? Like, what, am I temporary? Like, and I would take it so personal, but it really was not meant in that way. It's just, especially, it's just, I could hold on to things really tightly if I love it, love them, whatever it is. And, I could afford to have had that quote kind of seep into my brain because it's very true. And it doesn't mean that everything is replaceable. There are things that are replaceable. And I guess in a way, there's a lot of things that are replaceable. But would it fit the way the original thing fit? And maybe it needed to upgrade, or maybe it's going to forever kind of not fit exactly the way it was designed to because it's an aftermarket part. You feel me? That could be applied to a lot of different things. Sometimes that thought alone is super daunting, and it makes you not want to commit to anything, anyone, any situation, any, even ideology for yourself, because, okay, I'm going to do this, and what is it going to be for? How long is it going to be for? Am I even going to complete it? Who the fuck knows? Respectfully, we could wake up dead tomorrow, not to be morbid, but we don't know what's going on. We could all sit here and talk. I could come on this podcast. I could talk to you guys. I could let you know my thoughts. I have somebody else come on here, let you know their thoughts. They could be a master of whatever it is of the topic that we're talking about. And then the next day, there could be provings that everything that we talked about was different because there was new findings. That's both what is beautiful and terrifying of a part of the human experience. There is so much change. That is the only thing that is guaranteed. Yet we have been conditioned to fear it. We have been conditioned to look at change and want to step away from it. We're in a day and age, and we're in a society where we order something online, we get it the next day, we get it in 2 days. We post something, you instantly start getting likes or not. You have a thought, you can send a text message immediately. Once again, the accessibility to one another is at an all-time high. Privacy at an all-time low. Capacity, questionable. Instant gratification is harming all of the generations. As a 30-year-old who is going to be 31 years old, I'm in this in-between place of I can see how severely technology and this accessibility to one another has really took a toll on the youth. But it's not exempt to it taking a toll on the people in between and also the people that are older than us. I'm watching a bunch of people that are in their 50s, 60s, also be addicted to their phones and maybe not using that in the best ways too, but still complaining about the youth doing that. Yes. Are we lacking social skills because now you can just DoorDash something? You don't have to call a pizzeria and ask them and tell them that you want pepperoni on half of the pie. I think that we need to bring things back to old school aspects. I was shy when growing up. I used to dread calling my friend's house. I used to dread calling the pizzeria, but I would do it anyway because there wasn't any other way. Same thing when it comes to calling cabs. These little things, they seem so small, and I feel when we're speaking to the youth, it could be eye rolling, who cares, but it's all those things add up. All those things, those little things, they build self-confidence. They also give you little chill pockets to be embarrassed, where it doesn't really matter that much, you could say the wrong thing or be awkward or whatever the case is. And you learn and you take it on the chin, you move forward, and because we don't have that, we're lacking just basic human interactions. I'm looking around and everyone's flyer for their event is created by chat. You know what I mean? It's in the art community, in the creative community. I understand, listen, I'm not saying that I don't use chat at all because that would be a lie. There are things that I definitely use to consolidate, and I'm also mindful because I understand how detrimental it is to the earth. Simultaneously, you can't Google search something without accidentally having AI kind of respond to you. But how do we respond to it? How do we communicate with it? Like, there are things, if you want to take an email and consolidate it or use that as an editor, like for me, like like my grammar is crazy, you know, it always has been. I unfortunately and fortunately had the mindset when I was in high school and middle school, like, I'm like, well, none of this actually matters. And it's like, to a certain degree it does, you know, but like, you know, I digress. It's, there are ways to interact with things, but we're lacking the fundamental, like, moments where it's like, you lean on a person. Like, you want to relay. If I see an event just like as a AI chat flyer, I look at that and I'm like, I almost hesitate to want to go. I understand we're all busy and people are just doing their best, and I'm not trying to like judge or throw shame or anything. I'm more so just saying like my genuine experience of it. Like, it's one thing to like have an assistant in help of ideologies, but like to do the whole thing is scary. It's scary. And you know, that kind of ties into everything, like whether we're talking about AI, whether we're talking about instant gratification, social media, like we're living in a world where avoidance is just like a social norm, and it's encouraged. It's you could have somebody, you know, really be on a questionable type timing, but you got a bunch of people, whether that is, you know, people close to them or whatever the case is, like just affirming that. That's also why it's important. I was talking about this the other day with a friend of mine. Like, it's so important to step outside your culture. It's so important to step outside your community, to step outside like your lived experience. Maybe it's your family or different aspects or your close friend group, like, and ask for outside opinions, you know, whether that be a therapist or just a person of another community, another person of another culture, to kind of bounce things off. That's why people always say like, oh, it's so important that you travel or you have things. If travel is not accessible, you know, at this point, like Reddit is more valid a lot of times than, you know, AI. It's been proven that AI lies. Like, it's actually like a proven statistic, you know. And I'm not here to sit here and talk about AI a bunch. It's just been like on my feed a lot and just relevant recently a lot. And it just contributes to the dysfunction and the dysregulation of the average person on a regular day basis. Like, you can't pick up your normal smartphone, whether it be Google phone, iPhone, Android, and not have to like fight off some kind of AI bot that's trying to answer a question that you weren't even trying to ask it. You know, there's a difference between genuinely typing something to search so that you can slide through different links in order to go onto a website that a human created to find information, find what resonates with you, and understand what the source is. It's a completely different thing when you're asking something and the void of all data of everything that's ever been put online is consolidated into a list, and then you're looking at that list and it's a bunch of mismatch information coming from all different origins. That in itself is already confusing. That works when it comes to statistics of things, perhaps, depending, but it's not always in the best case. So whether it be AI, whether it be, you know, a circle of people that we're talking to, whether it be, you know, a conversation that we're even having with ourselves, a thought form we've been having with ourselves, a purchase that we're going to make, an interaction that is trying to be avoided, even if it's, you know, door dashing something instead of calling a restaurant. I encourage you to take a moment to understand, like, why is it that you're avoiding that? And is it beneficial for you to continue to avoid that? You might just be at capacity. Maybe you're just completely socially tapped out. You've been so tired. You know, you don't really want to speak to a person. Cool. I get that. Valid. I also do that. But if you notice that you just never call, like, you're also hindering that restaurant from getting the full, like, support if that you were to call them. And on that day that you're feeling depressed or anxious, you going out to the door and just like having an interaction and handing the delivery person a tip, or like just exchanging a smile or exchanging like just a human interaction might be exactly what you needed if you were sitting there spiraling in the abyss of whatever your mind was telling you or whatever you were, consulting with yourself on or avoiding, because we're depriving ourselves of needed experiences when it comes to just being a human. Now we have a bunch of people that are like struggling with many different things. And I say people, and I'm included in that, that we could be focusing on if we weren't spoon-fed distractions in the shape of information, advocation, friendships, relationships. There's been so much that has fucking happened in the past few months. And there was a particular moment where like I was really like going through it one day. Like it was like a day. I was so grateful. I was with two of my like longest term friends that I've had in my life. One of my friends was visiting. My other friend, that's like one of my closest friends, and like we went. I've been telling y'all I've been really big in pool. So like we went to the pool house. We're there. Vibes were questionable and weird, but we just did our thing. Continued to kind of suck at playing pool, but had fun. And then we left. We went to a coffee shop. I was expressing to them certain things that were on my mind, certain things that were on my heart, certain things that were like coming up for the past few weeks from that point. And it was just like, I was like, oh, wow, like I'm so grateful. Especially I needed a outside perspective, and also an outside perspective from a man was definitely super beneficial. A man, not just any man, but a man that I know does his best to work on himself, so I got to a certain point of like information where I was like, oh wow, like I genuinely feel like I got somewhere. Like I feel like, okay, I can move forward. It was kind of contrasting other things that people were saying about the said situation. A lot of people were like, all right, just like keep it pushing. All right, just keep it pushing. And I'm just like, I don't know. Like I just want to give this entire experience a full chance. And the way that this person expressed themselves, they had the capability of putting themselves in that person's shoes. And I was able to take in that information, and I wouldn't have been able to really find that information anywhere else, because this is his lived experience. And he had experience that was somewhat similar and had certain somewhat traits that, were valuable to the topic at hand. I understand we are, we're only getting older, and some people don't necessarily have groups of people that they can consult with all the time or feel comfortable consulting with. Maybe it's not your first choice, but there are people around, and at the very minimum, like I was saying before, you ask somebody, oh, like should I wear this or this? Like, even if you ask somebody something and they tell you information and it's like not good information, you can feel it in your body. If you're listening to yourself, you can feel it in your body, and that can help you make a better, more grounded and understood decision, because you have that contrast to go by now. When you're just ruminating in your head, all you have is like different versions of yourself that's trying not to get hurt. Pretty much. So back to that other day, we're at the cafe, have all these realizations, I end up like just seeing somebody from the past that I didn't have an interaction with them, but I was like, what the actual fuck? And it was just like very retrograde. I was like, whatever, I'm just going to keep it pushing. But like leaving the coffee shop, I felt extremely dysregulated. Like I went from being uncomfortable for the past few weeks about a topic, getting regulated, cool, and then turning around, being challenged once again with just like a presence of a human I just didn't anticipate seeing. Word, life is lifing, retrograde is retrograding, cool. Didn't have an interaction, pushed past that, left, and my hands were literally shaking. And it's interesting because it's like, this is like a side character to a whole other saga of past dysregulation. And I got like mad. Like I got mad. I was like, why am I shaking right now? Like, given did I have, some really, really good I think it was traditional Yemen coffee. I am weird with caffeine. You know, I have ADHD, so I'm either extremely tired or it makes me like heart palpitations, you know? Um, and that could have contributed to it for sure. But like the adrenaline, the anxiety, the flood of all of the thought loops like flew into my head. And like, you know, I talked to some people and people are like, oh, like who cares? It doesn't really matter and stuff like that. It's like that does not hold weight when I'm physically having an experience. You telling me that it doesn't matter is not helping, respectfully. Like if you look at somebody and they're having a panic attack and you're like, it's okay, everything's okay, what you're freaking out about isn't that serious. Like, do you think that that person's going to like just be like, oh, okay, thank you for that? Like, no. Let's meet people where they're at. I didn't even have the capacity to meet myself where I was at because I got pissed. I was like, why am I dysregulated by something from so many years ago? And I didn't even talk to this person. Why is this shit bothering me? And rather than sitting there and dissecting why and ruminating on that, I just was like, that doesn't matter right now. We can revisit that. What do you need? So I just started like, like I kind of just, I just started like shaking it out. Like I was like dancing, being silly, kind of jumping and like, but I wasn't avoiding it. That was the thing. I was like getting it, like shaking it out, like in the way of like shaking out anything that the response, right? The reaction, so that I can reroute the thinking. But I couldn't even get to the thinking until I can physically have myself at baseline. We cannot expect people that are struggling, i.e. me included, explaining it right now, to just be okay with something that's clearly bothering them at a certain level that they might not even be aware of. Like for me, I can understand the line of where that comes in. Like this person is just a physical representation of a cycle or a whole saga of what it is to have a certain type of experience in my life. Whether that's abandonment, self-abandonment, misunderstood, all dressed as a person who like doesn't really have make any difference in my life, but clearly just like the physical embodiment of that, like brought all of that to the forefront. So then I was able to like, once I like shook it out or whatever, like I talked to my friends about it. We talked about it. We laughed about it. I let myself be a little bit manic about it and then laughed at that, because when we deprive ourselves of also just being honest because we're fear of being judged, we are also then still not experiencing it as a whole. We're judging ourselves for like having thoughts or, and obviously, you want to have a safe space and safe people. But I was like cracking jokes at a certain point, like, because it's like, why wouldn't that happen? Like, of course that would happen right after I regulated myself. Like, why wouldn't we just take this shit up a notch? Like, let's just go from here to here. Like, you've been practicing, put me in the game. Like, put me in the arena. Now I'm in the arena and I'm like, whoa, I got a little bit more practicing to do, but I'm here, It's like you're playing soccer and you accidentally, like, you ran up to go, like, get the ball from when it got punted and, like, accidentally knocked it into your own goal. It's like, all right, you can beat yourself up about that, or you can lock the fuck in, be more mindful to where and how you let things hit you. Maybe learn how to get the ball down to your feet without just jumping and trying to hit it. And get that shit to the other side of the field and start doing what you need to do to achieve your goal or win. It didn't end there that night. The day had a lot more for me. I'll spare all the details, but I ended up like, I was with my friend that I like experienced like real life shit with. Like both of them, but like one in particular that like some of the most traumatic things of my life, like he was very prevalent for, like he was there with me. And I had revisited, I visited my aunt, and then I had revisited like the place I grew up in, And I hadn't been there with him. I don't even know if I've been in the car with him since like the impact of, you know, everything. And I had like PTSD kind of come up. You know, I started like, when I drove over there, I started getting like flashbacks of the day that, you know, the storm happened and like different things. And I hadn't had that reaction. Like I go there frequently. I'll be there by myself, like whatever. But like I like had to pull over because I was like shaking, crying, like and hyperventilating. And once again, revisiting that place with another person, with another component, it made me have a new understanding or have access. It's not like it triggered it because it wasn't in me. It triggered something in me to come up so it could be released, in my personal opinion, because that cry was so cathartic. I haven't cried like that about that particular place, situation, you know, tragedy. I can't even tell you how to that velocity. I can't even tell you the last time I had that kind of experience. And it wasn't like a, oh, poor me, like victim thing. It was just like, what the fuck? Like that happened and you were there. And like time has gone on and like I've been unpacking and understanding this in real time because, you know, it happened to me and my family. I'm like, but you were my best friend and this also had an effect on you. And like, have you even unpacked that? Like, I looked at my friend and I was just like, damn, like I'm at the place where like now I could even check in and like hold space and even validate his emotions. Whereas I might have not been able to do that because I was a person immediately, you know, affected. And I just looked at him and I was just like, damn, like you were there, you were with me, like you were in the fucking trenches. Like I'm having this experience. And even though maybe it wasn't your father, your house, your situation, like that was your best friend situation, that absolutely had an effect on you. And then that made me have a certain level of empathy and understanding of when you go through something, how it affects other people. Like I'm aware of it, but it was just like I felt it on a different magnitude because I gained access. I gained access because I didn't shy away from that emotion. I felt it. Was it ugly? Was it gross? I mean, I cried so hard. I had to blow my nose like 700 times. Like I cried. I like screamed. I got out the car. Like I talked to my dad in the sky. Like, you know, it's cold, whatever. Like I felt it in full. I truly believe that the body keeps the score. That was uncomfortable as fuck. But if that makes me not able to hold on to something that could ultimately lead to illness, could ultimately lead that grief being harbored in my lungs, that grief being harbored in my body in one way, shape, or form. If I was able to release that, having that experience and that exposure therapy accidentally, like, and leaning into that was the equivalent of years of therapy in that 20 minutes. So that whole day, what I took back, I talked to my other homeboy. I sounded him like a fucking literal podcast. Like I said that, like videos, voice notes, like breaking down the whole day and just kind of like consolidating the day, you know, and letting him know my lesson, because ultimately he says this shit all the time. He's like, you know, this relationship shit don't matter. Like this all this other stuff, it don't matter. And like, given like, you know, it could be a little grump and it could be a little jaded in that way. But I understand, like you hit a certain point. It's like, yes, it's cool. Like we're humans. We want to have interactions. We want to have relationships. We want to have friendships. We want to hang out. But it's not the priority. Like the priority, I mean, at least for me and the people that I keep closest, like getting the bag, getting the homestead, getting the community right, like supporting ourselves so we could support our families. When you know, a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of the people close to me, whatever type of fucking trauma that we all share, a lot of us didn't think we were going to be alive past 18, past 21, but here we are. Now, what are we going to do about being alive? Like, are we going to, you know, push forward, have a family or not, whether that's children or not, like be with a partner, like support your parents or your parent as they get older. Even if you don't have kids, you know, I'm a tia, like I'm an auntie, like to my literal sisters and also to, well, my sister's kids, and then also to a bunch of my friends that are close to me's kids. Like, I want to be able to support the youth, the people around me. I want to be able to support the elders around me that have supported me. We live in a society where it's really hard to do that and balance, like, in personal relationships. On top of that, it's not impossible, but these are all the different things that come up. And I was like in consolidation of all of that, although, valid, important each part of the day. The biggest message I got from the whole thing is like, because I had seen my aunt right before that, and she looks very much so like my father. And like talking to her and listening to her while I'm sitting there with my friend who knew my father, and my friend who, my best friend who never got to meet him, like, I felt like very melancholy. And it just reminded me, like, yes, all this shit is a lot. And it's hard. It's hard to be fucking alive. And relationship problems are real. And family problems are real. And all this different stuff. But I'm like, damn, like, you get older and you look at the people like your aunts or your parents, your mother, whoever you have in your life that's older. And you're like, I don't know how long you're going to be here. And rather than taking that daunting thought, I mean, and that could apply to anybody. Listen, I've had people die in all different ages and times. But it especially hit me that day where it was like prompted by my aunt. Like, I'm like, I do my best to spend time with her and see her, but I'm like, I want to do more. I want to do more. Like, I love her and I want to do more. I want to, I'm 30 years old, and half of my life I was a teenager. More than my life, I was more than half of my life I was just a teenager or a young adult that was trying to go out and hang with my friends and things like that. 75% of those people I don't even talk to no more, and it's just a part of being a human and having a teenage or young adult experience where you don't have necessarily the priorities in the right spaces. But like, whether it's your elders in your life or the kids in your life, because they're not going to be little forever, or it's the people that are the same age as you. Like, I'm not saying stop working and drop out of school to hang out with them, but maybe that time and those days that you're spending ruminating on your phone, doom scrolling, talking to chat, talking to your friends that you probably won't even be friends with in a few years, and prioritizing them over everyone, or whatever the fucking case is, distracting yourself, watching all of these different TV shows, doing all of these things that are ejecting you, hyperfixating on relationships, hyperfixating on what ifs or this or that. Like, the biggest message that I got that day, that fucking year of a day, was really just do your best to prioritize the people that you love and give them your attention and your presence. When you're with them, you can hang out with people and not hang out with people. When you're with them, like, not being on your phone, actually spending time, doing little things, like asking for a recipe. Your friend's good at doing pool, ask them to teach you. Your friend wants to get into boxing. My friend does. I just bought the boxing pads to put on my hands yesterday, because I want to encourage the thing that you're trying to do. I want to encourage a thing that you're passionate about. Obviously, if I really didn't like it at all, I would maybe, like, I would support you as much as I could, but maybe I wouldn't be like super invested. Obviously there's people for everyone, and you can't be everyone to everything. You can't be everything to everybody. But I mean, I happen to like boxing. I happen to want to do that too. So cool. Which brings me to another side note. Like, I just feel like people, this is super controversial. I've been saying this all week, but actually to say it live on the podcast is pretty wild, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Bring back fighting the ones, okay? Bring back shooting the ones, because like, people, and I'm not saying, like, I don't encourage violence in the way that it's like hurt people, oh my God, people on the brink of death, breaking bones or anything, but like, I just feel like some people just like you're talking a lot, like you're saying a lot of things, but like we could just be like fighting. Like we could actually just physically like handle this and then move on. But, obviously unprocessed emotions built up over years and that coming out of a person. And then when you physically fight them, they're blacking out because they actually want to kill you because they've never actually expressed their emotions in their life and it comes out via physical fighting. I understand. Like, I am not actually encouraging doing this, but it's just a thought that I've been having all week because I'm like, why are we in court? Why are we in like Facebook arguments and this, that? All these people, a lot of times, like, they just need to maybe just go boxing. Get a boxing fucking thing. Maybe you don't need to punch people. I don't know. I still think low key you might need to get your ass beat. But like, I don't know. I don't know. What do I know? I'm just a person figuring it out the best that I can. Sharing my real life experience. I just feel like we're deprived of experiences and, I think that like there's character development that could be had. But, I'll leave that there. I'm not going to expand on that too much. I'm not trying to be fucking canceled or have my words taken verbatim. Like, sprinkle salt on what I'm saying, okay? And that goes for everything, especially that type of thing. Like, sprinkle some salt. You hear me, but do you feel me? You hear me, but do you feel me, though? Like, actually. Because we're over here trying to nitpick the way people say it, how people are the grammar in it, and this, that, and that. We are imperfect people. We are not perfect. Like, if we're constantly trying to dissect exactly what someone's saying, the way it's delivered, you're missing the point. You're intellectualizing the entire experience rather than being present and listening to what the fuck the person's trying to say to you. Meet them at their capacity if you're willing, with exceptions of like, your tolerance and also what's being presented to you. But if you're like, oh, like, the person says and they meant the or there, and then like, does that actually matter? Like, does that actually matter in the grand scheme of what we're talking about? Does it actually matter? What actually matters? Things are fleeting. People come and go. What actually matters? Like, what do you stand on as a person? What do you stand on? Only you can understand that. And I pray and I hope that each person that is in confusion of that, also me at times, everybody, once again, nobody's exempt. I'm not preaching at y'all. I'm sharing verbally, audio processing as well. If you don't know what you stand on, then you're standing and you're falling for everything. So figure that shit out. Because no one's going to be able to do it for you. No matter how much we love you, no matter how much we care about you. What you actually want and what's at the meat of it, like, you're deserving of that. You were given that vision, those talents for a reason. Use them. So, I think that's all I got for now. I was going to do a whole thing, but I'm not. I'm just going to open the book. Okay. What is it that everybody who's listening to, whenever they're listening to it, what do we need to hear right now? What's some supportive words or conclusion where we're at? It's you. Page 143. Oh, that's cute. It's you. You have to realize the difference between people who consistently disrespect you because of the way you deal with them and those who disrespect you because of who you are. Often you blame yourself for the way people treat you. Let me tell you, you're right to believe that it's something that has to do with you. You know why? It's because they might be jealous of who you are. So give yourself a pat on the back for being good enough to make people envy a quality in you. They won't admit it. In fact, they will claim to praise you for it. But deep down, they may be burning to see you lose it. They will push you to the limit and make you just like them. What a world we have to live in, where living happily and peacefully, being silent, following without question, and living without dreaming. Don't ever allow anyone to make you feel like being a good person is something bad. Don't ever allow anyone to make you feel that you need to prove anything to them. You don't have anything to prove to anyone. If you got the proof you need for yourself, believe it in yourself. Believe it in goodness. Live your life the way you want it, the way you want to. Think of yourself. Don't be selfish. Seek the wealth and knowledge and spirit, not the wealth of money. Love and allow people to love you. Give more than you take. Take, but don't be greedy. Respect people, but don't allow them to walk all over you. Don't allow them to walk all over you. Speak, but only when you need to. Choose silence unless it's going to hurt you. It's better for your words to hurt others than for your silence to hurt you. It's better for your words to hurt others than for silence to hurt you. But trust me, you don't need to have people in your life who make you choose between two options. It's you. Well, that was extremely relevant, So, you take what resonates and you leave what doesn't. At the end of the day, we may not always be able to express it the best way, but when you have people that actively are choosing themselves and loving themselves and working on themselves, usually they're able to also do the same to you. And when you're watching people not choose themselves and not work on themselves or run themselves in loops, it's not that they're not worthy of love, but maybe they're not worthy of the highest priority of advice that you're digesting. It's important to really take in who we're asking advice for and how they're applying the advice that they gave in their life. And yes, many humans are prone to give advice and not take it for themselves. But are these people somebody that you admire in the way that they walk in their life and in the spectrum of what you're asking about? How much knowledge, how much of application do they have in that? So take that as you will. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in with me today. And I will see you at the end of April.